Love, lust, and sex are very, very prominent areas of focus because we have to make sure that the brisket is cooked absolutely perfect. Because if it's not, the crew is going to go home crying and it's all going to be all at the end of time. We need to make sure that our pleasure centers are fulfilled and our relationships are feisty yet diplomatic, that are energetic yet also solemn and relaxing. We need to balance these things out very, very carefully, but we may have a difficult time doing this. But all the more reason why it's so more critical. Whatever takes a lot of time and difficulty trying to do needs more time, needs more action steps, needs more derivatives. All those kind of things that creates it for what it is. On December 11th, the very, very first aspect going on is that the moon will square Pluto. And this is a little bit of a sneak peek into the next 20 years of Pluto being in Aquarius because Pluto entered Aquarius November 19th. It's going to stay there all the way until January of 2044. Or is that even right? But so what can happen? So from this year to 2044, Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for 20 years. And so this moon square Pluto acts as a harbinger, acts as a hearkening to what that is going to be about because it represents challenges and obstacles. And so Pluto rules Scorpio square to Aquarius. The square creates tension and it can create difficulty. And so it's as if Pluto is squaring Aquarius, even though Pluto is in Aquarius. It's still a sort of rulership squaring off with the current sign placement, which is generational because Pluto takes so long to travel around the zodiac. It takes about 248 years to circle back to the exact same spot that it was before the 48 year period. And so when it comes to the moon square Pluto, there's a couple of things to look at. The moon represents our emotions, our subjective sense of reality, how we nurture ourselves, how we nurture others. Pluto is power, death, transformation, rebirth, and ultimately the process of release. And through the release is a great empowerment of the self, because it's all about the self transforming from one version of itself to another. Kind of like, you know, the caterpillar to a butterfly. And so when it comes to moon squaring Pluto, the moon brings out negative aspects of Pluto, is that it can bring about compulsions that are very, very strong, that are driving you to do certain things. Um, Not that it's OCD, but it could manifest as that if the energy is not tempered and tankered. But so compulsions and urges coming from the depths of our psyche, really, really arising from those places in very, very strong. You could also find that your deeply buried feelings may get exposed to the world, to your community, to your lifestyle, to your life stationings. These feelings, which are so deep, are getting exposed, are getting out there. So you're expressing them in one way or another, or people are picking up on these things from you, whatever the case may be. These things are not private for long. They're not stuck inside you for long. They're getting out into the world in one way or another. Do you want those feelings to get out there? I think that you wouldn't. So you can take measures to keep them private and advise people to respect your emotional privacy in that regard. It can create power struggles, power games also. That's another negative aspect of this, especially with family members. It's important to listen to another person with an open heart. That's very, very important at this time. It's good to seek self-care and support for your healing. It's very important to seek support. Um, for what you need to heal within yourself. This is good for meditation, journaling, or spending time in nature. This is also good for surrounding yourself with people who offer understanding and support. So that's really, really important also. It's important to create a strong environment that offers you permission to be vulnerable. So that also is a really, really prominent, powerful point, is what relationships allow you to be your most vulnerable, um, authentic, real, and raw self, and which relationships don't value that. Release the ones that don't value that, because this is a time to truly be vulnerable. Getting emotions out of your subconscious can be very, very healing at this time. And so there's certain challenges that bring opportunities for you to transform and evolve. So be open to those opportunities. It's important to be aware of your fears and phobias and the sexual issues that may go on at this time as well. It's important to eliminate bad habit patterns that don't serve your highest good. So eliminating these things is really, really critical. It's important to be receptive to the abrupt and ruthless emotional power struggles from family members and knowing how to maintain this and keep this up and maintain that family struggle with emotional maturity and a sense of self-respect. There may also be some domestic violence in your family or situation. Moving on to the moon square Venus. So the moon is going to square Venus on December 11th. And this really relates to correcting unstable relationship issues. Whatever the relationship issue, if it's unstable, if it's unstructured, if it's unstraling, this must be corrected. It's important that you have projecting jealousy and fears from your relationships. That may be an important thing, is to not project these things into your relationships. You may be overindulging and being a lazy slob. If you're not careful, you could turn into a slob. If you're not careful, you could become very, very lazy and overindulgent, overdoing the pleasures that you're allowing yourself to have. And it comes from not allowing yourself to indulge in those pleasures. You'll be surprised at the motivation that comes about when you allow yourself to enjoy pleasures, that you'll be able to moderate yourself in that regard. You may be feeling insecure about what others feel about you as well. And all aspects of a situation have to be known clearly. Because if they're not known clearly, then they're all over the place. They're all scattered over the drawing board. They're all scattered over the Fusca. So it's very important that you understand all of the sides carefully and all of the information about a situation very, very clearly. You may not want to carry out tasks which don't bring you joy, because Venus is about joy, what brings you pleasure. So if you have to do any mundane work at your job, or whatever the case may be in your career, then you may want to steer away from that and do the things that you do enjoy doing, so that you can put more focus and energy into the things that you don't enjoy doing once you allow yourself the pleasure of doing what you do enjoy doing first. That's the benefit, that you've sort of cleaned that out of your way, and you can focus and have a better mindset for those more difficult, important matters of your life. So that's worth really thinking about as a food for thought quota. This need to do things that you find that bring you pleasure, that bring you joy, that bring you satisfaction may lead to some problems. So balance is key. So another aspect going on is that Venus is going to oppose Mars around 6 degrees of Leo and Aquarius. So Venus is in Aquarius, Mars is in Leo, retrograde in Leo. So the focus may be more on romantic and sexual activity. It's a conflict between self-gratification versus tending to others' needs and feelings. It can bring about heightened passion and aggression at this time in relationships. Any gathering that you have might be more out of control or exuberastic. It may even become violent in addition to superastic, so that might be something to consider putting aside for at this time. And this is good for artistically physical pursuits. Pursuits that are both physical, where you're moving your body, but also artistic, such as martial arts, or painting, or pottery. Um, those types of things that involve you actually doing something that's artistic. It's very, very important to strive for balance and harmony. Um, and so it may lead to perceived abandonment or insult. So these abandonment issues or derivatives or whatever they are might lead to insult, might lead to sort of conflict, might lead to that kind of thing. Um, but you may perceive abandonment as insult to you. So there may be attempts to at being assertive may come across as being aggressive, so it's very important not to be aggressive at this time as much as you can. It's important if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the work that has to be done to pace yourself out, to give yourself a break, to do things, where you're doing things one step at a time, where you're not skipping steps or having a multiple and you're overwhelmed by the multiple. So it's very, very important to pace yourself out with what you have to do, breaking it down into managerial steps. It's very important. So another thing is acknowledging something that your heart and mind isn't capable of connecting to. Your mind may be thinking something really, really wanting an outcome, but your heart may be the exact opposite way and may not want that outcome for you. And so it doesn't align with your heart. It doesn't, what you want, what you desire, doesn't fully align with what your heart wants, what your soul wants, what your intuition is guiding you towards. So it's important to check in with your heart to see, is this right? Is this going to serve me? Is this going to bring home the bacon? Is this going to do me good or not? So it's important to evaluate that before you just thrust full into an action. Another aspect going on is that the moon will square Mars. So it may be hard to control your anger. Your anger and your emotions may be so intense, it is critical to find physical, constructive outlets for those emotions. It's important to be assertive but not aggressive at this time, because it may damage the relationships you're in. Jealousy and possessiveness may be areas of focus at this time. It's important to not manipulate others to try to prove your point or feel validated. So don't manipulate and don't choose to fall into the passive aggressive and share. So it's important to make time for assertive conversations, and there may be difficulties with female relationships at this time. So female relationships might be straining and might be more challenging to maintain at this time. There's a low tolerance towards certain things that you may say or do things that you may later regret. Not good for airing out feelings at this time. So that's very, very important to remember. And you may become more accident prone at this time. Now, I pulled two cards from The Sacred Traveler Oracle deck by Denise Lynn. And the cards that I pulled, the first card for December 11th is Reaching Your Destination. And the saying is, your light is shining brightly. That's what it's saying here. So this is about this is about this is about this is about this very clearly. So what we need to remember is that this card is about reaching the point to where you've aimed to go at. So you've aimed at a certain direction, you aim at a certain place, and you're sort of going toward that touch point. And so this is about taking advice of the guides that guide you along the way. So, whatever guides help you, assist you to move on your path and achieve a certain outcome, now's the time to allow those guides to guide you. This is about following and trusting your guides. This is about knowing that your hard work is paying off. So acknowledge all the hard work that you've done. Acknowledge all that you've done to get to this current point of your life right now. Celebrate that. Recognize that. Pat yourself on the back for that at this time. This is about celebrating your wins, not your losses. And so you're worthy of taking a, a bouquet of roses and dancing with your partner, spinning the roses around with him or her, because you deserve all the success that you want to have. You deserve all of the fruition, all the hard work that is very, very critical. This is about completing the unfinished symphonies that are incomplete and unresolved. So, what are the things that are not complete in your life? What are those things? What are those things that need completing, that need resolving? So, it's important to acknowledge all the hard work that has paid off in your favor. Now, moving on to December 12th. The moon is going to sextile Saturn. So this brings about good memory and dream recall, also brings about a sense of common sense also. This brings about emotional connections to your family. This is good for nostalgia. This is good for bringing back that old photo albums and such things. This is about caring for others through practical means. Duty and obligations. You may be feeling very strong obligations towards the things in your life. This is about nurturing your career environment. So that's very, very important that you nurture that environment and nurture that aspect of your life. It's important to put your attention and your focus on elders in your family who need support in this time. So it's important to have a loyalty and responsibility towards them, who need extra support. You may be feeling more reserved, you're less likely to socialize at this time. This is about sharing deeper and more serious emotions with loved ones. You may be feeling these very strong emotions and you want to share them. Now's the time to do that. This is a time for protecting your family or community or doing practical things with them. This is good to be prepared and organized, practical, and persistent. This is good when it comes to handling emotions with maturity and self-discipline. Being very emotionally resilient is also what this relates to. The card that I pulled is surrendering to the journey. The saying is release control. So this is about letting control of the need to control every aspect of your life. Letting go of this need for control, of wanting to get to a certain outcome when I wanted, how I wanted, all those kind of things like that. All the, wanting a certain outcome in a certain way, having a certain rigid expectations. This is what you need to release and allow spirit to form the wayside for you, give you what it can, allow you to bask in the Buddha rings, allow you to sort of go to the mud baths and hanging out there for a little while. You know what I mean? So, when it comes to allowing the spirit to take over and take control of your life, not needing to be in the driver's seat all the time. So letting spirit take over, trusting in spirit, remembering your connection to spirit also is very, very important. So remember your connection to spirit and allow spirit to guide the way for you, allow spirit to take over. You may be going in a completely different direction than your ego mind jointed out for you to go in, but be open to these detours. Be open to what spirit has to provide to you, um, and what sparks your inspiration and in yacht in bursts. Very huge. So that is your astrology and oracle readings for December 11th and 12th. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.